Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Rhodes, and I am the George Mason University School of Business Alumni Chapter Diversity and Inclusion Committee Chair. And it's my pleasure today to help raise awareness and celebrate the National Developmental Disabilities Month. With me today are Stephanie Zimmermann. She has a BS in Decision Science and Management Information Systems, and she is the Vice President and co-founder and owner of Box. She's also a board member of our Women in Business initiative. Also with me today is Christine Landoll. She has a BS in Accounting, an MS in Taxation, and is a professor of practice and director of business engagement in our School of Business. She has many roles on our Mason Alumni Board and for the School of Business Management Advisory Council. She's also a member of Mvle Board. Our first question goes to Stephanie. So Stephanie, can you talk about the mission of your company, Box?
Sure. Jennifer, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this presentation. It's really fun to kind of think in terms of what Mason's doing for their alumni and to share stories like this. So I just feel really humbled to have been included. So I just wanted to say that at the outset. Box is an award-winning moving logistics company that specializes in eco-friendly plastic crate rentals. And so we rent plastic boxes as an alternative to cardboard. But it's a little bit more than that. We've actually evolved into a full-service residential move management company, and that includes helping people schedule residential or commercial moves, doing all kinds of amazing flexible storage arrangements. We have this cool concierge product where you can store things by the box if you want to, or you can like send an entire room when you're doing a renovation to a storage unit and have it called back. So there's a lot of really creative logistics. And we're actually also working in the government and commercial spaces. So we are recently SWAM certified. We're a micro certified company. Very proud of our woman-owned status, but probably the thing I'm most proud about is just our logistical chops. We're a logistics company that deals in boxes, and we specialize in getting to a yes for our clients in the most convenient and authentic way that we can think about.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Can you tell me a little bit about how you learned about Mvle and why you decided to partner with them?
So I met John Pellegrin, who is a board member of Mvle, at a Dulles Chamber of Commerce event. And we were networking, and I told him what we do, and he was really intrigued with the cleaning process for our boxes. So plastic boxes that are rented need to be cleaned between each use. And John kind of drilled down into it. And so eventually he said, I have a group of people that I would love for you to employ. And he just basically made the ask right there at the chamber event. And so I hesitated a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, let me talk to your people. Let's figure it out. Because I wasn't sure what I was agreeing to. And so I met Mvle and I learned about the work that they do with their community. And I met with Linda Brinkley, and we started literally taking apart the process that we do for cleaning our boxes. And we rebuilt it so that it would fit the model of the types of jobs that they were looking for their clients. And it was actually really incredibly easy to do. So once we started thinking about how to clean the boxes, then the partnership just sort of evolved. There was never, once I had decided that we were going to clean our boxes this way, there was never a question that we weren't going to do it this way, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Christine, can you tell us what Mvle is and what inspired you to join the board of Mvle?
Sure. So MVLE is a non-for-profit, and it started in 1971. So it's been around for a good while. And their focus is on helping differently abled people seek employment. They also offer day services for folks. So they really are focused on the health and well-being and employability of people who are differently abled. And it's interesting because when I was asked to serve on the board, one of the questions they had for me was, what is it about us that is intriguing to you? And I really kind of categorize it in three areas. One is just service. So luckily, I was raised by parents who focus was on giving back to the community. My dad was a career naval officer and also served as a senior executive in the government. My mom is a nurse who then went on to work for three different administrations in the White House. So service to others is in my vein. And so I'm always looking for ways to give back. And in high school, I actually participated in a group called the Partners Club, where we helped train folks that were differently abled to participate in the Special Olympics. So it's always been something on my radar screen to really seek out ways to help people reach their maximum potential. So it seemed like a really nice collaboration. The other element was kind of connection. And to Stephanie's point, similar to her experience with John Pellegrin, I'm always looking for ways to make connections. And I feel that there's such a untapped resource in folks with disabilities. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit today, but helping them to really be able to play to their strengths and to have somebody take the time to find what those strengths are. And I saw that in Mvle, and I saw points of connection with Mason. Mason has a great program, Mason Life, and other resources that are similarly aligned. And so trying to find those points of connection, I think, was a big part. And I felt with my role here at Mason, I was in a really good position to be able to do that even further with Mvle. And then the last thing that was kind of the kicker was Nvle's purpose. And I'm a purpose-driven person, and their mission kind of and tagline is, and I'm going to read it to make sure I get it correctly, but their vision is to create a world in which all individuals are valued and empowered to achieve their greatest potential. And how cool is that, right? So to make sure that we can ensure that everybody is reaching their potential. And Mvle was able to give a voice to those who often don't have a voice. So it was a slam dunk from that perspective. They had me. And what makes it special, all the things that I just stated, that this is a group of individuals who are living their life trying to make sure that people who don't have a voice and find gainful employment if they are able, and help to work with them to make them able and to make them see the possibilities that they may not have seen. So all of those things made it an easy ask to serve on their board.
I could see that, especially with your background. So that's wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit more about how other people can become involved with MVLE?
Sure. So first of all, going to the Mvle website. So all you have to do is go to mvle.org, and they have a get connected section and stuff. So literally logging on and seeing, I will steal a little bit of Mason language because I think it very much applies. At Mason, we're always looking for people to contribute their time, talent, or treasure. And, those capabilities and opportunities are there at Mvle. So if you want to volunteer and give of your time, there are certainly opportunities to do that. They are always looking for people who want to help with their community and ensure that they've got enough resources. Again, they're a nonprofit, so they're not here to make money. They're here to ensure that the folks that they work with, their clients, are gainfully employed. So if you have a talent, something that you're uniquely specialized in that would be useful for this community. So, policy things, there's, how can we have a voice for the people in the disability community. There's a lot of things going on where funding is going away, a lot of companies that are struggling. So if you have some insights there, that would be fantastic. And then the treasure, obviously, if you have funds to give, that is something that Mvle is always seeking. So there are a tremendous amount of ways, and I know Stephanie's going to talk about some of the ways from an employment perspective. So if you're an employer, making sure that you're consciously thinking about how you could potentially employ folks that serve as Mvle's clients into your business. That is where success is, where they get out of the Mvle system into gainful employment, can purchase an apartment and different things with their funding and resourcing and stuff that they get. So putting your employer hat on and thinking about how can I leverage folks with disabilities into my company would tremendously help out the supply chain that is Mvle.
Great, great. Thank you. This question goes to both of you. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about working with people with developmental disabilities?
I'm happy to start, and then Stephanie,
Sure.
you can go. So I would say from my perspective, is the concept of what is enough, right? So we want the clients of Mvle to realize they are enough, right? So it's finding their strength and plugging them in and making sure that they can do it. And for the employers out there thinking about, could I do it? Realizing, again, the unique strengths that people that have different ability. Again, that's why we call them differently abled, because they are very abled and very competent in different areas. Finding that unique niche and plugging them in and making sure that they're successful and stuff, and trying something new and different. And so I think that concept of you are enough, and figuring out how to take your enoughness and plug it into a different organization or a different task. And I know Stephanie will highlight some of how she's successfully done that within her organization. But that's what I like to get across.
Stephanie, what would you share?
Well, I think one of the things that I would start with, that I would open with, is you kind of have to take everything that you know about this community and just put it aside for a moment, because people are people, and they have real needs. They want to work, they want to have value, they want to contribute to a project or something bigger than that. And when John and I were originally talking about it, what he did so well was he actually helped me compartmentalize the actual tasks. And we started thinking about, like, what are the things that you do, not who does it, but what do you do? And so when I started removing away the reasons why I thought it had to be done a certain way, and we were able just to brainstorm, then what kind of came out of that experience was the opportunity to create something uniquely fit for differently abled adults. And I had never considered that as a workforce, like a pool of applicants to even go and think about. And it was actually a little bit humbling at the beginning, because it's sort of like, oh my gosh, how have I ignored this resource that exists out there? But when you have repetitive tasks, and cleaning boxes are very repetitive tasks, and you blow them apart into individual jobs, something that we were able to do was we were actually able to create a team that was more productive than my regularly abled people, if you can say that. I mean, it was actually kind of amazing, because we started focusing on their unique talents and their unique abilities and leveraging them inside of my process. And one of the things that we absolutely love about our team, and we haven't seen them since February of last year, so we're really missing them. And I can actually talk about pre-COVID and post-COVID in terms of like how things are changing. But pre-COVID, when our team would arrive, we had 6 people, and we had 2 Lindabox folks. And so they got to be in a collaborative, interactive work environment. They brought a job coach. This is a job that you can't do by yourself. And so we created a community where all of us could work together. And there were several times where we had community lunches afterwards, and we would talk about football, and we'd talk about the Mason scores, and there would be hugs and high fives, and it felt, it really felt normal in a lot of ways. And so I guess one of the biggest misconceptions that I had was that somehow it would feel really different when I was working with them as opposed to working with other people on my team. And it wasn't. It just felt right. And that, I know it sort of sounds cliche, but when it works, it works. And I can actually give you some examples. An average person, if you hand wash a box or hand clean a box, you can do about 20 or 25 an hour. So if you have a team of 6, you're talking about 120 boxes per hour. When you take a team of motivated individuals who have a really specific task and you're repeating it over and over again, you put them in an assembly line process, we can get to 352 boxes an hour. And that is a huge impact on my bottom line when we're talking about, not only productivity, but the ability for us to batch process more boxes, have more inventory available. When I started doing the math, I remember I was sitting down with Keenan, and he was just like, "Whoa, Stephanie, like these numbers are you sure they're right?" And I'm like, "Let me double check." And they actually were right consistently week over week over week. And so we had tapped into their ability to process things quickly, because it's a repetitive task and they really enjoy it. And we really enjoy working with them. And when you're working with someone who wants to do something so well and so fast, sometimes you actually have to slow the process down a little bit because you got to worry about pinched fingers and things like that. And so we discovered all kinds of amazing ways to evolve our system from the original time that John and I brainstormed to when Linda and I started thinking about it from a backwards point of view to, what do you have to do from an OSHA compliance point of view? What do you have to do from a safety point of view? How much room do you have on your floor? I mean, it was really fun to actually build it. So the thing I am most proud about with what we've done is we've actually created a process that is the exact same process that I use with the high school and college kids who clean our boxes on the weekends. There's no difference between the two of them. And my Mvle crew is consistently faster, historically faster.
When it
So
could be
I
the
just think that's
CPA and
amazing.
the CPA and me that, I mean, when you look at the data, so again, data driven, which is so important and so powerful, but you said 150 to 300. I mean, that is significant. And I think, again, from the perception out there, that would never be something that is somebody's go-to position, that you're going to be that, double the efficiency and the effectiveness. And if again, a couple employers give us a chance, and engage with Mvle, to pressure test it, because Stephanie did go through a journey with them, it not only made her process more effective that now she replicates with the folks who aren't differently abled, but just the sheer impact to the business. And I just love to pause on the numbers because
Right.
that is
So do I.
significant. That is significant. And I think it is a breakdown of a perception out there. And so, something that you should really challenge yourself, from, not what the perception is, but what is the reality that I could create for these people, that could really excel in my company.
So the other part of the question that you didn't ask about is what accommodations do we have to put in place to make it a safe and an inviting workspace? And so that was actually something where we had to look at, each individual went through a fit process. The job coach went through a fit process. It's noisy. We're working in a warehouse, so you're not sitting down. So we had to think about, what kinds of shoes do they wear? Do we put cushion mats under their feet? A couple of the clients will come in with noise canceling headphones and they'll play their own music so that they're not listening to the boxes stacking around. So there are extra things that you have to do to make it more comfortable for people. But the truth is that's the case for everyone again. I wear noise canceling headphones, and we have hand signals to each other because it's really noisy. You have to turn the vacuums off if you really want to talk. And there are things that we developed working with Mvle, but we've adopted on with my high school crowd. So it's actually really cool. It's informative to the work process, and if you're able to match a skill or an ability to the actual thing that you need to do, you can automate it in a way that is productive. Sometimes people who are thinking too much about their, or maybe I should reframe it. Sometimes when you have your telephone and you're DJing your ride and you're thinking about your texts and you're trying to unplug yourself and you're doing this boring job, sometimes it's really hard to get your attention where you need to be. And I run into that a lot with my part-time high school kids. I mean, it's a perception. But when you're working with someone who's so enthusiastic to be working, and that they know that they're important and they're part of a process and they understand what their job is, and they're also DJing their ride, and they're also thinking about the things that they're thinking about, but they're connecting at a different kind of level. It is like magic to watch it work. It's not magic when it doesn't work. And we've had a couple of those where we had to go in and go, hold on, we got to like remove things around. But it hums. It's just so cool.
That's wonderful. It really is wonderful. Can you share a little bit about how the relationship with Mvle and its workforce has evolved over time? Sounds like maybe it started out as an idea and resources, and now they're really coworkers and they're essential to your business. Where do you see it going from here?
Well, we started with them in September of 2018. So we had a solid year of working with them. It was February of 2020 when that was the last time we saw our crew in the warehouse. And the evolution of what we did before to what we're doing now, it's actually kind of interesting. The pandemic caused us to pause. We had to think about how to social distance. We had to reconfigure our floor. We had to figure out how to do things not being next to each other. And so we're working on all of that right now, actually, and testing out some different configurations so that we can bring Mvle back as soon as we're able to. And there's a lot of decisions that are beyond my warehouse in terms of when it's appropriate to have people working with us. But the evolution of the process is actually a weekly thing. You evaluate the times, you evaluate who worked well, who needed to be redirected, who needed a different job. And that feedback goes to Mvle, and then they actually are the ones who are doing the job fit process. So they figure out like what's appropriate. And then from there, the job coaches give us feedback. And they say it would work better if you did maybe this instead of that, or you did this step first. And so in this collaborative process, it evolved as people were working in the process. It's a cleaning process. You vacuum, you spray things, you wipe things. You'd think that it's pretty straightforward, but when you're working at that pace, it has to actually be really precise. And an example of the evolution, originally, we have labels on our boxes. You have to take the labels off before you wash them. Tactile work with fingers pulling off labels is really, really hard to do for some people. And so that became a Linda box job that was done ahead of the box wash. Any box that has any kind of oily, crusty ring on it or something like that, like some leftover food that just can't be vacuumed and cleaned, those are hand washed. Those don't go through our process. So we added like extra checks in based off of our feedback of working with people and seeing what they could and couldn't do. And so it's evolved in that way. And then from a post-COVID, like how do we return back to normal kind of thing, we added more real estate. Essentially, we used to work elbow to elbow. Now we have corner to corner. So we've got our 6 feet distancing. We have masks. You can wear a face guard if you want. We tried all these different cleaners for disinfectants. Bleach was a really bad choice. Didn't like that at all. But now we use a hydrogen peroxide cleaner that's a hospital grade cleaner. We added a quarantine process in for our boxes, so they actually have to be in quarantine before we even clean them. So the whole cleaning process was elevated. And so now what we're doing is we're rethinking how the people who we want to be cleaning our boxes can come back in. And so we're testing out some different methods, and we're doing some videos and a bunch of phone calls back and forth. It's very like the Ford automation kind of thought process. It's just in time processing in real life. It's really kind of fun. But the relationship over time, I would agree with you in that we regard them as incredibly important, valued team members. They have Linda Box shirts just like we do. We invite them to our company lunches, and I didn't anticipate that a vendor was going to be so integral, but like my warehouse team felt like it would be it would be empty if we didn't have like the entire group there. And so, it's as much for us as it is for them. And then, one of the cool rituals that we had was the high five line at the end of the day. And so, we only work 2.5 hours. So you go through this frenetically fast thing, and then, okay, the vacuums turn off and everyone gives everyone a high five. And then, there's a couple guys who come over and they give you fist bumps and hugs. And it's like, it just makes your day feel good. And, I think, maybe all of us need a few more hugs in our lives. Where I see this going from here, like inside Linda Box, I think we're going to just continue to bring people in and teach them the way that we do things and give them these great opportunities to be part of a collaborative process. I kind of see us as a middle step employer. You can't work at Linda Box by yourself. And so I don't know if it's a graduation step so much as like if you were able to work at a fast food restaurant or an employer where you can go as a 1099 or a W-2 employee. We're not set up that way. We're actually a contract with Mvle, so you have to come with a job coach. So that's kind of like a middle step. I would like to actually help other companies figure out how to create these middle types of jobs, jobs for groups of people to come and work together, because that group of individuals are really underserved in the job market. We created 6 jobs. And I just think about it sometimes like, oh my God, 6 is such a big number. And then other times I'm like, it's just 6 jobs. Like there are so many more people who need these really transformational opportunities. And it's not even really an opportunity. It's sort of like, it's part of that DNA of being human. Like you want to have a reason to, do what you do. And I don't think that differently abled adults are like, they think differently than I do in terms of what they want. They want to be able to buy a coffee at Starbucks, and they want to be able to play a video game, and they want to be able to pet their cat. And it's like all those lifestyle choices are informed by how you work. And
that's what I really love about kind of amplifying this story from the perspective of how do you replicate that and really putting that challenge out there to anybody that's listening, or anybody that, if you're listening, get the 10 other people that, perhaps have opportunities like this. And I know Stephanie will definitely, from the logistics master perspective, seek out companies like her, right? So, what are my competitors? Because this is not an area you want to compete, right? From a negative perspective, you want to compete from a how can we help more people to successfully, transition into full employment and stuff by giving them tasks that can help them to excel, and finding that sweet spot like she did, and was able to do it has transformed. So I think transformed the lives of the people who've been involved. And so how can you create more instances of that in more companies, in more organizations? And that takes every leader out there thoughtfully thinking about how to incorporate folks who are different into their processes.
Great stories, great contribution, definitely. Can see how they've become just so integral to what you do and how you do it as well. Christine, can you share some of the other success stories of MVLE working with other different types of companies?
Sure. And there's a bunch of stories on their websites with
Okay.
regards to different things, because they do have a vast array of the types of services that they provide, from day support where, and they have an MVLE Moves program, which is all about, just dance moves and expressing yourself and that type of thing, taking people who are very shy and into themselves and their thoughts, and really giving them a vehicle to learn and to trust and emote, and seeing the huge successes there. One other kind of unique area, which I love because it's a Mason example, is through our honeybee initiative that is done through the Business for a Better World. There is obviously wax as the byproduct, and we put in for a grant to have MVLE help to make the candles that come from the wax, and seeing the just sheer joy on the individuals' faces who are able to take and make the candles. And we had to be specific with regards to which ones they could, because they can't use hot wax, because that's a code requirement that they can't. But they were able to take and warm and mold the melted candle wax into candles that could be then sold. And again, finding ways for gainful employment. And it's like you look through this ecosystem, and by them doing that, then MVLE had a conversation with one of the colleges out in California to how can we even enhance efficiencies. So as it's hard to do some tactile things, how can we have robotics, aid in the process? So you never know where something can go. And, again, think about how to rethink things, and think about sharing your message so others can join you in that rethinking process. So those are just some of the stories that come to mind.
Well, perfect segue, Christine and Stephanie. I was going to ask, what is your message to people with developmental disabilities who might be doubting the kind of work that they're capable of? What would you say to them?
Well, I would encourage them to find an agency like MVLE to help them discover what their potentiality is. An employment agency or a life skills, a space where you can learn your life skills and you can practice. We do that in business school. I mean, in fact, Christine teaches a class right now where she's teaching her students to learn how to use LinkedIn and learn and do practice interviews and have their resumes reviewed um, by professionals. And so it's the same process. If you join an organization like MVLE as a client, then you will be able to see what types of jobs are available there. And then you can believe that you're part of that. And kind of going back to Christine's opening remarks of, you have to believe in yourself and that you are enough and that the skills that you offer are something that are valuable. And then part of the work of our community is to help stitch together the fabric between those resources and those jobs, because it's not intuitive. And that's part of what this whole conversation is about. It's the appeal to people who have the ability to think about those questions to answer them.
Christine, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I could just say ditto. So, Stephanie definitely hit on a lot of the things that I was thinking. And it's, again, something I share with all of my students in my classes and stuff. We all doubt ourselves, right? We all doubt ourselves. So don't think you're unique in that, first of all, and
Right.
don't be extra hard on yourself. We are our own worst enemies. So do take an opportunity to find the organizations like the MVLEs out there to have that conversation. I often say to my students, I see more potential in you than you see in you. And so I love to provide that mirror to them to say, do you see who you are? And there are organizations that are trained to do that. So don't underestimate yourself. It's just all about finding your strength And when you find your strength, as Stephanie's example shows, you are exponentially stronger. So it's just a matter of taking that space to find that strength and then leveraging that strength and having the confidence that you can do it. And the great thing about an organization like Mvle is they give you that confidence. Like Stephanie said, they give you the high fives at the end of the workday to reinforce and validate you're more than enough because you've helped to create a different view of a process. And that's pretty special.
Thank you. Great answers, guys. Great answers. Very motivating to those, I'm sure. And so, Stephanie, I'll ask this last question. What would you say to other employers who are considering the effort to partner with Nvle?
I would say that it's absolutely worth the conversation to explore whether or not there's the possibility of, coming up with a solution. I would hesitate to suggest that, there's a solution for every problem that, they've ever thought of. That came off kind of weird. I would hesitate to tell you to write off, like what you think might be the answer, because assumptions are, in my case, my assumptions were totally wrong. And just by entertaining the conversation, I was able to really get into the mechanical benefits, the logistical benefits of doing what we were doing. And I think that employers who have warehousing or production line type of jobs, there's a lot of possibility in those spaces where, if you just kind of think about how you're doing it right now, and you might have to reshift a couple resources. But for us, it was a huge impact. I mean, we went from 120 to 350, and that number is like, I have it on my wall. I'm really, it's something to beat. And I'm already trying to think of, where else I can go into my company process. So for other folks who are considering hiring Mvle as an agency, I would say, like it's 100% worth the conversation and the look, and that you would be doing yourself a disservice if you wrote it off because you thought that it might be awkward or difficult to work with their employees or with their clients. Truth is it might be awkward and difficult to work with you. I mean, just in regular interactions. I mean, that it really boils down to we're all human, and everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and there's a place for all of us inside of these solutions. It's just, go on, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and it's interesting because they operate in all sectors. And that, again, they've got competitors out there. So find an organization that is, and of course, my dogs are going to join in with this conversation, but they operate in the secure sector. So they do operate in some, in terms of providing cleaning services in secure locations. So they've got, folks who can do that. And, so it's hard to think of an organization that couldn't potentially find the right opportunities to be considered in this space. And so, don't limit yourself.
And I will add this, the team of professionals that are working at Mvle to create opportunities and create jobs and connect employers, outstanding crowd. Very professional, well-connected. They have an endless amount of creativity and ideas in terms of like how to attack the real questions that we were thinking about. I just think about, like the type of people that I want to work with are people who not only appreciate what my constraints are, where I can and where I can't do things, but also appreciate the desire on our part to make it work. And then, there was some stretching on Mvle's part too, to work with us. There were some requests that we had to, kind of like iron out. And so that professionalism and the quality of the job coaches that they hire, and, like everyone from who answers the phone to who works with us in daily interactions, all of those folks take their jobs. They do their jobs really well. And I'm incredibly biased. I love Mvle. I haven't worked with their competitors, but I can say, if I was going to tell you who to go to, I would say start with my friends at Mvle. They haven't steered me wrong. So, and I'm tremendously grateful for that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything else that either of you would like to share for this version?
No, I mean, thank you, Jennifer, and Mason for doing this and to really focusing on the impact that could be made by focusing on this space. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, it has been a fascinating conversation. So I want to just appreciate the time that you've shared with us, Stephanie and Christine, and I'm looking forward to the inspirational stories that are going to come just from folks listening to this podcast and being able to take this message a little bit further, having that awareness of the National Developmental Disability Month, and hopefully putting it into practice with their businesses or their friends in the network that they're with. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so much fun.